Okay, so welcome everyone to the second day of the Energy Democracy Under the Microscope online event, which is organized by Energy Democracy Dialogues, an initiative of INZEB and Electra Energy, and is also organized in partnership with Heinrich Bell Stiftung Greece and Rescope EU. During the event, you can put your questions or thoughts in the Q&A box and the chat box of the platform. And also the event is going to be recorded. Thank you. Alice, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Panayota. So welcome everyone. I see that people are still entering, but we need to be on time as we have promised to start at 3 CET. My name is Alice Korovesi. I'm the Managing Director of INZEB here in Greece, an advocacy and research organization. I would like to welcome you on this second day of the two-day event, Energy Democracy Under the Microscope, which is an event organized under the Energy Democracy Dialogues, an initiative which was developed 1 year ago by INZEB and Electra Energy cooperative. What we aim under the Energy Democracy Dialogues as a platform is to operate and to connect energy experts, to connect policymakers, businesses, politicians, academicians, civil society representatives, and citizens, of course, to meet and debate on the critical issue of energy democracy. The main aim of the dialogues are to address the energy transition challenges and also to influence the local, regional, and national agendas through a constructive dialogue. I want to welcome you again, and I hope that we are going to have a constructive dialogue today addressing the issue of energy democracy and energy transition in the Balkan region. And I want to give the floor now to Dimitris Kitsikopoulos from Electra Energy to present also himself and say a few words about the dialogues and the specific event. Dimitri, the floor is yours. The floor is yours.
Hello, thank you, Alice. This is Dimitris, co-founder and member of Electra Energy Cooperative. We were established in 2016. We are located in Greece, in Athens, and we are working on supporting the development of community energy in Greece. We work very closely with municipalities, with citizens, with energy communities, with SMEs and academic institutions for that purpose. Our main fields are research, project development, advocacy activities, and capacity building. About a year ago, we discussed with Alice and with INZEB to create this platform that is called Energy Democracy Dialogues in order to further support the development of energy democracy, not only in Greece, but since the very beginning of our discussions, we had in mind to extend this and to support other countries in the Balkan region to develop community energy, because we think and we feel that the Balkan neighborhood has some special characteristics which are quite different compared to the northern countries, because community energy is well developed in northern countries like Germany or Denmark or Sweden and whatsoever. But it's really struggling in the Balkan region. So let's hope that today's event will be the first step towards this journey. And it is not a one-off event, it's just the beginning. We hope that we will have more events that will follow. And I would also like to invite you from now, next summer in Greece, as part of a European project that we are implementing together with Rescope EU. We will have a summer school, so I would like to have as many people as there as possible from the Balkans to further extend this discussion. As already said a lot, thank you very much. I pass the floor to Kyriaki now. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. It's very nice to see you and to have you here today in the second day of the Energy Democracy Under the Microscope event. I'm Kyriaki Metaxa, and I'm the Ecology Coordinator at the Heinrich Bell Foundation office in Greece, which is located in Thessaloniki. And directly linking it to what Dimitris just said, it would be great to see you all next summer in Thessaloniki, probably, for this academy that he mentioned. I've been working a lot on energy transition, and what we're trying to do with our work in the foundation is to highlight the social dimension, the social aspect of this process of energy transition. It's not only something technical, but it means and it needs social changes, societal changes. So we've been working on the topic of energy poverty very closely with INZEB since 2017, also with Electra Energy on energy communities when the new law was launched in Greece in 2018. And as of this year, we're working closely also with Rescoop on a topic of the social impact of energy communities. So we follow very closely these developments, and we try to contribute to the discussion. And this is also today our effort to do that. So thank you for being here. So now I guess that Michalis, with this, who's the director of our office, sorry for the for the noise, and he's going to moderate the discussion. We'll take the lead, right?
Yes, but prior to that, we have the wrap up of yesterday. So the floor goes to Stavroula Papa and to Antonia Proka from Rescoop. Yes, the floor is yours. I know that you have a presentation to share, so probably it will be good for all the speakers to have the cameras close as to focus on the presentation that is going to be displayed, and we can open it upon the completion of this first session.
Thank you very much, Alice. I think that now you can see my presentation, right?
Yes.
Great, thank you very much. Hello, everyone, and thank you for the invitation. My name is Stavroula Papa. I am an energy lawyer, and I work as a project manager at Rescoop, which is a European Federation of Citizen Energy Cooperatives. I will give you today an update on the transposition process of the provisions for energy communities in the Balkans, but I would like to start, as Alice mentioned, I would like to start with some main points that I grasped from yesterday's event. And let me move to the next slide. So yesterday, we extensively discussed the energy transition topic, and we said that there is a number of actually green technologies that can be used to make this transition easier. I noted down a nice quote that Antonia Proka from Rescoop mentioned, and I really liked it, saying that the energy transition is an outcome, a goal, and a process. So we should not only talk about the goal, but we should also talk about how we can reach it pragmatically. We also agreed that the community engagement and the democratic decision-making are in the core of the energy transition, and as a process that's socially just. And this gets me to the next point that we touched upon yesterday, which is energy democracy. And Marilyn shared a very nice definition of what an energy democracy is, and we discussed that it is all about leaving no one behind in the energy transition. And in this point, we made a connection with the gender equality topic. And we said that it should be more about actively bringing everyone on board. And that's what we also try to do in the cooperative movement, to really involve women in the decision-making of the community, and of course, all the aspects of the operation of the energy communities. I also noted down a very nice question that Chris from Electra Energy raised on whether we can change everything in the energy sector without actually changing anything. So we wondered if it's possible to have a democratic energy transition if we keep everything the same and if we keep consuming the same energy as we do. So it's a lot of food for thought into that. In yesterday's discussion, we also extensively addressed the energy poverty topic. We mentioned the work that is being done in some projects, for example, in ENACT and in SEAS. And the thing is that energy poverty rates highly globally as a topic, but it is low in energy literacy at the moment. We did conclude that the energy poverty tackling and the housing renovation is a field where cooperatives can have a lot to offer, have a role to play, but they are not the silver bullet to solve this problem. So the actual responsibility and the main responsibility lies with the national governments. Finally, we also touched upon, and that was one of the questions that came out from the chat, on the distribution of profits of energy cooperatives. And then we highlighted that the profits as such, they're not a problem, it's not a bad thing, though the focus should be on the democratic processes that are followed when it comes to who these profits will benefit. And we agreed that ideally they should benefit both the members of their cooperative and the wider local community, and for what purpose. Just to wrap up the first day, we concluded to some main needs that we see for the way forward. One need for the energy transition is to translate those topics in a language that all people can understand, and the need to support each other and work together to move forward in the energy transition in order for all the citizens to be on board. In my opinion, it was an excellent discussion, and you still have the opportunity to actually, it's an event that has been recorded. Then I will move now to the topic that I would like to address and the transposition process. But first, let me just give you a quick description of what RESCO-PU is. So RESCO-PU is a European Federation of Cities and Energy Cooperatives. We have members around Europe. We represent at the moment more than 1 million European citizens. And maybe it's better for me to show you the map, which is more a picture of our members around Europe. And you can see, as Dimitris mentioned before, that most of our members are located in the north of Europe, because countries like Germany and Denmark have a long tradition on energy cooperatives. And this is not the case in the Balkan countries. As a matter of fact, sometimes people are a bit suspicious about cooperatives in the Balkans. And you can see that most of our members in Balkan countries are in Greece and in Croatia, though this is changing. And this is changing because also the European Union has recognized the need to enhance the citizen participation in the energy sector. And it introduced 2 definitions of energy communities with the Renewable Energy Directive and the Citizen Energy Directive with the Clean Energy Package. And these 2 definitions are renewable energy communities and citizen energy communities. I will just want to mention that these 2 definitions should be transposed into national legislation in all European member states. And the deadline actually for this transposition has already passed. So it will be interesting to see what has been done so far. I would like to give you just a few words on the European definitions so that we are all on the same page. So I would like to say that those 2 definitions introduce an organizational concept where citizens together with small and medium enterprises and public authorities participate in energy transition projects, and they are organized in a legal entity. Those definitions have some differences. For example, citizen energy communities are only for electricity, though renewable energy communities are for renewables in general, though they both adhere to some similar principles that are listed in the European legislation. I have a slide with these principles here. I will not touch upon them at the moment, but I would like to point out that most of them are in line with the cooperative principles. For example, the open and voluntary membership and the principle of autonomy. And what is really important through the transposition process is that these principles are further elaborated on the national level. And they are actually describe what they mean, taking into account the national context because each country has different context in this topic. Moving forward, something that is a common mistake, I would say, when talking about energy communities, people think that it's only about production of renewable electricity. And I would like to clarify that energy communities have not been framed at the European level around a specific activity. As you can see from this slide, the European Union legislation provided a range of activities for energy communities, flexibility, mobility, of course, production for renewable energy. And the final comment on the European level is that the transposition process is not over with the transposition of these definitions, just specifying in the national law what the REC is or what the SEC is, but it needs to be coupled with an enabling framework for the energy communities to be able to function and to have access to the market. For example, having some funding opportunities, reducing the administrative burdens, and so on and so forth. So now I would like to go to the core of this presentation and talk about the transposition progress in the Balkans, in some of the countries, of course. Just to state the obvious, some Balkan countries are members of the European Union, which means that they have to transpose those two definitions into national legislation. Some other countries are not, and in this case, there are some other treaties regulating the energy sector topics. I would like to start with Greece because it's a unique situation. It's a country that adopted a law on energy communities right before the European definitions were introduced, which means that this law is partially in line with these definitions, but not entirely. So in my opinion, it's a good piece of legislation. It enabled the development of more than 800, I think, energy communities in Greece at the moment. And it's important because it got the movement started. But that doesn't mean that the transposition is done. I just want to clarify that the transposition process is still we still wait for the transposition process to be finished. We did highlight some problematic elements that energy communities are facing with this report that you can see in the right, which we conducted with Greenpeace, INZEB and Electra Energy. And now we're waiting for the final transposition to take place in Greece. I also prepared a slide for Croatia, but I know that there is a representative from ZES today, one of our members in Croatia, so he's a lot more knowledgeable on the situation there. I will just mention that in Croatia, they have transposed only the definition of citizen energy communities and not renewable energy communities. And what is interesting, let's say, is that they picked the legal entity of non-profit organizations. And the question is here if cooperatives can be considered a citizen energy community. So I will just leave it there for Croatia. And just give you some limited information that I have for some other Balkan countries and the transposition process there. Romania has transposed the citizen energy community definition, but transposed just as a copy-paste of the European definitions, meaning that they have not elaborated the principles I showed you before on what it means in the national context and how people can actually use citizen energy communities there. So it needs further elaboration. And in Bulgaria, the information we have is that there is no transposition at the moment. The transposition is in progress and it will be delayed, a bit delayed. But the reality in Europe is that most of the member states have been delayed with the transposition. And maybe a concluding remark from my side is that the citizen participation topic in the energy sector and the model of energy communities is a very new model in the Balkan region. Though there are some good initiatives, as you can see also from a USINA report produced recently for Albania. There are already, Albania is a situation where there are already some initiatives, community energy initiatives, but there is no legislation yet for energy communities. We can share with you this report if you're interested on the Albanian context. But I see that there is a huge potential also in the Balkans, and if this legislation is enabled, then this legislation will also be essential for a successful development of energy communities. And my last slide is about some useful materials that we have produced in Rescue with regards both to the transposition. On the left, we produced transposition guidance, and on how to practically develop an energy community. We have produced a guide in different languages that can be useful. My colleague Adonia will share those information material in the chat for you that we are interested. And a final comment would be that in case of questions, sorry for the bell, someone is really angry with me today. So in case of questions, or if you would like to become a member of Rescue in your community energy model, feel free to send me an email or contact one of us in the team, and we'll be really happy to answer your questions. Thank you very much. I will stop sharing, and I will pass it back to you, Michal.
Yeah, thank you very much, Stavroula. Thank you, everyone. It's really an honor and a privilege to be able to moderate today's session. I'm Michalis Goudis, the director of Hydropower Stiftung, our office in Thessaloniki, in Greece. So we're also we feel at least 100% part of the Balkans. And now we have, I think, adequate information regarding the format, the event, what has been said on day one, since this is day 2 of Energy Democracy Dialogues. And I think we got a good first picture about the special characteristics of the context, of the Balkan context that Dimitris Kitsikopoulos mentioned in his introduction, thanks to this excellent presentation by Stavroula Papa. Today, our session is sort of a Balkan road trip. We'll be hopping from one country to the other in the region, and we'll be hearing from people behind various initiatives, either initiating energy cooperatives or supporting or monitoring their processes, and we'll be hearing about the challenges and the opportunities in every country. And the aim, as explained also in the beginning, is to provide a platform for exchange here, but also for this to be the first step for a group that can stay together and support each other in this process that is very timely and very relevant, I guess, for most of the countries that are represented around the table, either with speakers or in the audience. So please let me take a moment to welcome our audience. And before I give the floor to our first speaker, because we have a long list of really interesting people around the table, a few housekeeping points. You, as the participants in the audience, you can send us your questions, your comments, or your points on the chat box or in the Q&A. Our speakers in the initial setting will have up to 10 minutes, and we will all try to stick to this time so that we leave time for exchange among each other and with the audience. And let's start now with our trip. The Balkan road trip starts in Bosnia and Herzegovina. And our first speaker for today is Vedat Sudic from the Regional Education Information Center. REIC was established in 2005. And has been working on initiatives linked to sustainable development. All of them are experts deeply dedicated to renewable-based low-carbon development and the numerous co-benefits it brings. And the Regional Education Information Center has over 7 years of expertise in citizen energy and was the first organization in the country to promote citizen energy initiatives, and they have worked on the subject in Albania and North Macedonia, while Vedat has been the director of the center since 2013, with expertise on environmental economics and both from Ljubljana and Sarajevo, and he has worked extensively on environmental protection, energy and climate change for more than 30 years, both in the region, but also as an expert for international organizations, including the EBRD, the World Bank, and the European Investment Bank. And I'm happy to be able to welcome Vedat as our first speaker for today. Vedat, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Michalis. Just one logistic question. Do I have now 10 minutes or 5 minutes now and 5 minutes later, or?
You can have your 10 minutes and try to split it between the challenges and the opportunities.
Okay, then I will try to stick to it. Thank you very much for the very nice introduction. So there is no further need to introduce myself and our organization, what we are doing in general. So I will immediately jump to the topic for which we are here all gathered. It's citizen energy or energy democracy, which is a topic we are actively working on since 2015. And I have to say, thanks to the Heinrich Böll Foundation in Bosnia and Herzegovina, based in Sarajevo. So they were the first to recognize our efforts, our voice, to say, so let's do something about energy transition from the point of view, from the citizen point of view. And that's how we approach actually Heinrich Böll Foundation. And I have to say also that we were somehow infected by this virus from our friend from the Green Energy Cooperative from Croatia. So we know them very well for more than 1 decade. So we have been working closely with them, and actually they have infected us as well with this virus. So we have been working, as I said, from 2015 very actively on this topic, have made some significant achievements, bearing in mind all the various and different barriers we were facing in Bosnia and Herzegovina, mostly from the legal point of view, which are tremendous, unfortunately. However, we try to focus on opportunities rather just on barriers. We launched the first crowdfunding campaign dedicated to citizen energy in October 2018. So it was the first ever citizen energy crowdfunded campaign, which gathered more than 25,000 euros for a public health facility in Bosnia and Herzegovina. And after this, I believe Majda will also explain the Petska example and others which followed. Talking about our approach and what we are doing, so we try to gather different stakeholders from the very local, so from the citizens themselves up to the top to talk with also with ministries and to bring on the agenda the citizen energy topic as something to be worth discussing. And it's been a fight, I would say. In the last years, we have been talking to various stakeholders, and some achievements have been made. For instance, in the new law, which should be published in the coming period, the prosumer concept and also the citizen energy concept will be something which will be highlighted in the new law. So we managed also to bring a part of Heinrich Böll Foundation to work on this. The German development organization GIZ is also starting to actively work on this. So our role, and that's what we have been doing so far, was to articulate the topic of citizen energy, because there is a huge stigma, I would say, in the population here in, I would say, not just in Bosnia and Herzegovina, but because we have been working on this topic also in Albania and in North Macedonia, and also we are familiar with what's going on in the other countries. We have this kind of post-socialistic regime that somebody else is doing our job. So we don't like to take action in our hands. So we expect that somebody else, in this case, the country, is doing something for us, whereas the citizen energy is completely the opposite. So you have to bring people to not just invest, but also to take decisions on their future or about their local community. We tried really with a couple of communities in Bosnia and Herzegovina to talk on this issue. We have also established, it's not actually establishment of the first cooperative, because I don't want to waste too much time. There is a legal boundary because we cannot found currently energy cooperative as it in Bosnia and Herzegovina, but there is a possibility that you add an energy component to existing cooperative, like agricultural cooperative or any other cooperative. And also, I believe it's in most of the, especially socialist countries, there is a stigma also when it comes to the cooperative model itself. I have been told in Albania, call it however you like, just don't call it cooperatives. So there is unfortunately a huge stigma related, negative stigma related to the cooperative. So there are many stereotypes, I would say, you have to fight against when talking about citizen energy, and it's a long process. So whoever start with this process and expect some significant outcomes in 1 or 2 years, it's completely misdirected, I would say. So it's a process which takes, I would say, years, even decades, to change the paradigm, to change the narrative and the understanding. So the examples which our colleagues in Croatia are doing is a very good one. So they are doing it focused, dedicatedly for years, and they are now producing fruits of this effort. So that's what we are trying also in Bosnia and Herzegovina, and we are glad that TRAKE is not the only one, because it's impossible to be the only one and to change something. So we are glad that colleagues from the Center for Environment from Banja Luka, but also some other organizations are recognizing this topic, and actually that was our role, to articulate the topic and to bring it into the mouths of different stakeholders, different initiatives and different organizations. Now we are planning to expand, to say, our operations and our work on more concrete projects. This year, actually next week, we have the kickoff meeting for a project called Balkan Solar Roof, which partners together. Energy Cities is the lead partner. We are one of the partner, and then we have 3 cities from Croatia: city of Poreču, city of Mostar from Bosnia, and city of Niš from Serbia. The overall aim of the project is to catalyze a citizen energy campaign in those 3 cities, which would then result to have at least 250. So it's a quite huge achievement. Roofs with solar facilities, can be PV, can be solar thermal, but all have to be financed through citizen energy models. So that is something we will be working on for the next 2.5 years on this particular project. So with working on the ground with people, and we are already aware of all the obstacles and barriers we will face, but with the knowledge equipped and the experience equipped from the past, but also with the network, I believe we can establish in such occasions like these. I'm sure that, and I'm positive that we will overcome these barriers. So I'm very much looking forward to learn from the good examples, but also from the mistakes all of us have been doing so far. So, and what we other can improve in our initiatives. So a part of that, we will also closely work with institutional stakeholders. As I said, GIZ is starting a completely new component related to citizen energy, and I'm also glad to say that in this project we will collaborate with the Green Energy Cooperative. We have been just recently informed that we got a contract with them to work on improving. It's just a first step about improving the policy framework in Bosnia and Herzegovina related to citizen energy. So there are many fronts which have to be tackled when it comes to citizen energy, and we are happy to be on this journey, and happy to share also all the knowledge we have gained so far, and all, but also I'm more than happy to share all the knowledge from all the other countries. So yeah, I think I'm in my 10 minutes, and
You're perfect on time.
Follow up questions and discussion. Thank you.
You're perfect on time, Vedat, and thank you very much for respecting this time limit. I definitely keep from your intervention the word stigma, the fighting against stereotypes, and the fact that it's a long process. It may take years or decades for a paradigm shift to happen, and I'm sure that all of us would be following with great interest this project you mentioned, the Balkan Solar Roof that will be running for the next 2.5 years. Now, we moved from Bosnia and Herzegovina close to our office here in Athens. So we go to the Greek capital to meet again Dimitris Kitsikopoulos, co-founder of Electra Energy Cooperative. I just give a very brief introduction because Dimitris had a chance to introduce himself and their work. In the beginning, just for the ones who tuned in a bit later, let me say again that Electra Energy is indeed a social cooperative based in Athens, working since 2016 for the transition to a democratic, efficient, and sustainable energy system with, of course, citizens at its core. And they work with citizens-led initiatives and communities, municipalities, academic institutions, and other important stakeholders. And Dimitris, apart from being a co-founder of Electra Energy, has a background as an electrical engineer and a master's in information technology and manufacturing, with long experience also with the construction and the commercial sector for more than 9 years. And since 2010 has been active in this kind of community and social innovative initiatives. So Dimitri, I give you the floor to tell us more a bit about the Greek context. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Michalis. Yeah, it was very interesting, the remarks of Vedad. I was trying this morning to make some notes about the key challenges and the opportunities that we are facing in Greece with regards to energy communities. And the first remark that I made is not actually the major right now in Greece, but I thought that it is a common point with other Balkan countries, and that has to do with the cooperative model itself and the reputation that was traumatized, it was damaged, especially during the 80s in Greece, because it was used by governments as a tool to promote their policies, especially in the agricultural sector. And for that reason, the cooperative model in Greece lost their autonomy, and as a result, people lost their faith in the model, and that was really unfortunate. So during 2018, when there was discussions about introducing a legislation about energy cooperatives in Greece, there were quite a lot of concerns about the name. And because branding plays an important role, we were also concerned, how are we going to call them? If we're going to call them energy cooperatives, which is quite accurate because this is what they are after all, and they are based on a legislation about cooperatives, that might hinder people from participating. So after 3 years, because now we are already in 2021, what we have learned is that finally, by the way, the name that was chosen was energy communities because it was in line with the European directive. So what we have seen so far is, first of all, probably the name itself played a positive role. So instead of calling them energy cooperatives, by calling them energy communities, most probably it played a positive role. Also, I have to say that during the past 10 or 15 years in Greece, the cooperative model has regained at some extent its autonomy. And not only it has regained its autonomy, but also we have quite a lot of positive examples from cooperatives that they are able now to be autonomous, to design and to deliver good services and products, not only for their members, but also for the society as a whole. So yeah, that's our learning so far. And this is a key thing that we need to discuss in the Balkan region as well. And that is, my understanding is that this is one thing that differentiates the Balkan region compared to other places in Europe. So again, this is not the major challenge right now in Greece. The main challenge right now are problems that we have with connections to the grid and getting permits. Of course, again, this is not only restricted to energy communities. This is an overall challenge of developing renewable energy projects. So access to the grid is a challenge. Access to suitable land is also a challenge. And if you combine both of them, then you have a really big challenge, because you need to find a land where you can get a permit, but also you need to find a land that is suitable and in a price that will be sustainable, economically sustainable for the whole project. Another thing is that what we saw in Greece is that many private investors sort of hijacked the model because when it was introduced in 2018, there were some incentives, not a lot, but very crucial. One of them was had to do with getting a priority to grid connection. So if an energy community applied for a grid connection, it had the priority compared to other to companies. So that was an incentive, and also there were some special tariffs that were provided to energy communities. So there were many private investors that created, let's say, not genuine, quite fake energy communities in order to get access to this incentive. So right now in Greece, we have Stavroula mentioned about 800 energy communities, which is more or less accurate. This is how many are registered in Greece, which is a huge number. Out of them, I really doubt if there are 20 or 30 energy communities that are real, are genuine. So this is a threat. This is a threat for the community energy model itself. And of course, the ministry is already working on it in order to resolve this issue. Another thing has to do, obviously, with financing. The financing tools for community energy projects are not efficient, especially for self-consumption. What you can do, one option is you build, for instance, a solar park and you sell the electricity. Another thing that you can do is you build a solar park for self-consumption, to cover the needs of the members. For this second case, unfortunately, there are not any available financial tools. Another point I would like to highlight is that it was already mentioned by Stavroula in the beginning, is that most of these energy communities, when they start, what they have in mind is to generate electricity mainly by solar parks. This is okay. This is obviously not a bad idea to start with, but what we have seen from other successful energy communities from other countries is that if they are able to develop a more diversified portfolio of services, in the long term, they're more sustainable and more resilient. So we would like to see more energy communities to have not only to be active not only on electricity generation, but also on storage, on electric mobility, and of course to use other technologies apart from solar. This is unfortunately not the case in Greece so far, and we would like to see it happening. Finally, there are also some internal challenges, let's say. One of them has to do with the governance of energy communities. There are some special characteristics, and it is not always very easy to make decisions for energy communities. And the last part I would like to highlight is about expectations. We have seen that when members are joining energy communities, these members are not experts in the electricity sector and in the energy sector. In many occasions, they have quite a lot of high expectations. And not only they have high expectations, but they want to see the projects to be realized very, very fast. Unfortunately, especially for the electricity sector, which is highly regulated, this is not the case. So this is a problem that might generate a sort of introversion within energy communities and have negative results. So yeah, this is some of the challenges I would like to highlight. Finally, I would like to make some comments about the prospects, which are obviously quite a lot, and the potential is really big, and really sky's the limit here. We have already seen that energy communities can raise capital, can mobilize local societies, citizens, SMEs, and municipalities. Another important thing has to do with social acceptance. We have seen that when people from a local community are developing a collectively owned project, the social resistance is lower and the social acceptance is higher compared to other projects that are designed and owned by private companies. Obviously, energy communities can generate clean energy and reduce emissions. Another thing has to do with, sorry, my time is out. Another thing, it will be like 30 seconds left. Another thing that is very crucial is that, as I have already mentioned, and as it is already known, members in an energy community are co-owners of the projects and are able to make collective decisions. And they have access to all kinds of information that have to do with the cooperative. That increases the transparency, which leads to an increased trust, which is a very important element for social capital. Finally, two things. Energy communities can tackle energy poverty, and final point has to do with resilience. When local citizens are able to get access to local production, to have diversified services and ownership, they're less vulnerable to prices volatility. And this is something that we see nowadays in Greece. And unfortunately, I think that we see it in many, many other countries. That's all for the time being.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Dimitri. Thank you for your mobile that reminded you about the time, but you also respected the time limit. Thanks a lot for this. Many interesting points there as well, all the way from branding to permits for connection to the grid and access to suitable land. I think that all of these are also relevant in other places, as well as the fact that maybe this is indeed going to be discussed, the fact that private investors hijack the sector, and this threat you mentioned about the genuine communities compared to the overall number that sounds impressive, but in any case, as well, the financing challenges and the management of expectations, of course, key. We heard that also in the first intervention. And thank you for closing with positive prospects. It's also good to remind ourselves about the multiple benefits this model brings. Questions have started flowing in the Q&A, so feel free to share your own questions and comments. I will be collecting them to feed into our discussion. And now we move from Greece all the way to Sweden. Through Sweden, we will hear more about North Macedonia and Bosnia. Herzegovina again from Sergeant Vidoeski, who is an independent researcher collaborating with our office, the Heinrich Böll Stiftung office in Sarajevo, on several topics concerning both regions. He has an educational background with a focus in energy transition, governance, energy poverty, democracy, and human rights. And currently, and this is why he's based in Sweden, he's a candidate for a master's degree in wind power at Uppsala University. I'm happy to give the floor to Sergeant Vidoeski for the next intervention.
Well, thank you very much for the kind introduction. So I will directly proceed, as you already introduced my background, to talk more specifically about North Macedonia, but also I will tackle a little bit some comparison with Bosnia and Herzegovina, since most of my research has been focused on these two countries. I would like to start by addressing what Dimitris mentioned in his closing lines on the energy poverty. So since I come from a holistic and academic, more theoretical approach, I would say that the energy democracy is crucial, and forming and supporting the energy communities is vital for addressing the issues that come out of energy poverty. And especially in a sense, these three terms form the so-called triangle, as known in theory of energy democracy, energy justice, and energy poverty. So from what has been done in the extensive research until now on this problematics and these topics, we can say that addressing energy democracy, supporting the energy communities and the energy cooperatives really is a tool for achieving energy justice. And it needs to be done through the three pillars that are known, which is energy justice of procedure, distribution, and recognition. So what does that mean? That would mean that we need to work on the legal frameworks and then fair distribution and recognizing the rights of the people who are living in energy poverty, which is again very distinctive from the income poverty, even though still tightly connected. So when it comes to North Macedonia, but also Bosnia-Herzegovina, the issue of energy poverty is still prevailing. It's not recognized by the state. And I see that creation and support of energy communities and the energy cooperatives, as Vedat highlighted previously, the big issue here is in fact the legal part. We cannot actually do much without having the legal framework or providing the procedural justice. So I would say that in the case of North Macedonia, unfortunately, there are still no any functioning energy cooperatives and energy communities because the legal framework is still not adopted. However, no matter how much of a challenge or obstacle this is, the good news is that the country in the last couple of years, since adopting the new national energy strategy in 2019, that is up to 2040, it's opening the doors for changing much of its legal framework on energy and energy issues. So already today in 2021, North Macedonia has been often referenced as a champion country in the Balkans for modifying and changing its legal framework. So the most important, I would say, highlights that come out of the national energy strategy is that there are three scenarios that are introduced there, which is the moderate, the reference one, and the green scenario. And actually, according to the research that has been done, the green scenario is in fact is what is also the most profitable. So with the investments in renewable energy, solar and wind, hydro, but also some percentage of biomass, we can see that the country can actually accumulate up to 40 billion euros of investments and extensive profits from deciding on going forward with the green scenario. In the context of the energy communities and the energy cooperatives, the good news is that the national energy strategy in North Macedonia predicts that 400 megawatts of solar installment are to be done or delegated for citizen energy, which means that there is a pathway for this legislation already to be adopted. So currently, the municipality of Karpush, which is part of the city of Skopje, is working on installing solar panels of 50 kilowatts on a school in its municipality. Why do I mention this? Because this is already a way towards creating the first energy cooperative in the country, aligned with the, of course, the German support and a grant from the German government. They have actually done a very good thing with the idea of tying the issue with energy poverty and the vulnerable energy consumers by giving a grant to 100 families who are going to be owners of the production and the installment of this capacity. So it's imagined to be done as an energy cooperative investment. And since the law on the energy cooperatives does not exist still in the country, they have done a model and a proposal based on the idea that I have. So what they're trying to do at the moment is that they're campaigning for adopting the law on energy cooperatives in North Macedonia. And they have based their financial projections of these kind of models on a reference investment of 3,000 euros. That if any citizen of North Macedonia invests 3,000 euros, they would undoubtedly, over a period of 15 years, based on the electricity prices and the production capacity and what can be done in this sense is that they can actually have a return only after 7 years, since the country is known to have one of the highest numbers of sunny days in the region and even in Europe. So there is great deal of opportunities that the national strategy on energy in North Macedonia is bringing. So again, unfortunately, the law is still in the making. However, I would say that the energy transition in general is going really well. For example, for the moment, there are 2 plots that are open for investment that any legal or physical entity, they can invest into up to 35 megawatts onto separate plots for solar energy, as well as the distributive network and the company who is running the distributive network for electricity in the country. It has already invested in central North Macedonia to build a new solar power plant. And in addition to this, again, it seems like we are big on the solar energy. The 2 thermal power plants in the country at the moment who are providing more than around half of the electricity in the country are being transformed from thermal towards solar power plants. So in general, this, I would say, it's a very good news for the energy transition of the country. And of course, let's not forget the capacities for wind power that exist as well. However, no matter what are all of these capacities that can be used and can be open to the citizens and the consumers, unfortunately, again, the law is still not adopted. So I would say that definitely, no matter the opportunities that are there and what the national energy strategy is giving, this is still, I would say, an obstacle when it comes to really pushing forward with citizen energy and working on energy cooperatives. And last line, I would say that I hope that the things will move forward quickly. And yes, we can talk about, that's my timer. So we can talk about more later on as well. So thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Serjan, and thank you all for being so polite and even having your timer zone to time yourselves. Many interesting points. Thank you for highlighting energy poverty and the whole triangle that you mentioned, energy, democracy, justice, and poverty. It sounds like a very interesting time in North Macedonia with the national strategy, and the good thing is that the green scenario seems to be the most profitable. And thank you also for mentioning this really great news, as Christos comments in the chat, about this initiative on the municipal level with the solar roof being installed at schools, the transition of thermal power plants to solar power plants. Interesting times, I must say. Thank you for sharing such a nice overview, Serjan.
If I may jump in very quickly, I think this is a very interesting approach because a lot of schools as well from Prilep and Kumanovo, one of the bigger cities in the country, are also filing petitions to form their own kind of self-governed installations of solar capacities. So this is like, again, a very encouraging news.
Indeed, and maybe relevant also in other countries. So maybe we move to our next speaker, and maybe either Visa or somebody else will also mention this point on the schools. So we will be hearing now from the Balkan Green Foundation, which is a regional organization that promotes inclusive and equitable progress in the Western Balkans within sustainable development domain. Along with their many partner organizations, the Balkan Green Foundation places a very strong focus on advocating for solutions that promote development policies, which are in line, of course, with the national challenges also for the EU integration. While Visa Razeni is the executive director at the Balkan Green Foundation. He holds a graduate degree in electrical engineering, a second bachelor's degree in management studies, and his master's is in international financial management. Of course, he's very engaged and focused on strategic development in the Western Balkans with particular attention. No surprise to renewable energy development, energy market integration, and circular economy. So he is the right person to tell us more for Kosovo and the Balkans overall. Visa, happy to have you with us.
Thank you very much, Mihalis, for your kind introduction. Thank you, everyone, for your attention and your thoughtful ideas and stories that you've been telling so far. Now, the energy communities or the energy cooperatives, or if we wish to call them the community-based enterprises, sometimes it all matters how do we introduce these activities to the population and to politicians. It could make sense and it could make a difference indeed, because the previous speaker spoke about the notions and the narrative which was not accepted, and I totally understand that because of the past, what the former Yugoslavia had to go through in order to reach a surviving of their citizens. So people associating with energy community cooperatives don't have very good memories, if I may say. And to continue, maybe I can start with an anecdote. There was this Swiss guy who invited some people to do some construction work in his yard, and his friend goes to visit. So he sees 10 people working in the yard, but one of them was very proactive and was working fast and delivering quite a lot. And he points out, he says, this guy is from the Balkans. So his friend says, why don't you fire the other 9 and get another one? And then, it will equal, because the guy said he's working like the other 10, like more than the other 10. So he says, no, if I get another one, then they won't do anything. They would just sit down and talk. So the energy cooperatives were monitored and supervised from the state at that point. So that's why, it didn't have a good reputation. However, if we wish to move on, I think we have to make it sound profitable to some point to the communities in order to have a success. In Kosovo, unfortunately, energy cooperatives are not recognized, neither regulated, nor have any public endorsement or anything so far. The law that we have currently in place does not say anything about that. The energy strategy, again, doesn't recognize or doesn't do anything with energy cooperatives in Kosovo. So it has been an abandoned topic, and I am not sure if at this point we're able to bring it back unless we introduce it as an enterprise which could potentially bring some profit to the communities. And in this case, then we are talking about some medium-sized enterprises or cooperatives which will be able to function. I have personally seen a very successful cooperative in Germany, and perhaps some of you have also seen that. It's in Schönau, it's in Schwarzwald, where it all started by people donating money. This was many years ago, and the whole approach was brilliant, and the cooperative is today very very good. It's in a good standing, and it's actually producing profit as well. And they don't own only the production; they own also the grid as well. So grid is part of the cooperative. So when you think in these terms and see how people have evolved in the Western world, it's something that we really need to advocate more and introduce these kind of terms in our part of the world in order to achieve something. And this as you all know, is very much related to creating new jobs, fighting energy poverty, and so on and so forth. So we are talking about how to say, a circular approach which will tackle several issues and develop the structure quite well. Unfortunately, I don't have much to say about Kosovo. I know in the Balkans, as we heard, also Bosnia and Northern Macedonia, there are some developments. We know in Serbia, for example, there is in Shabac, and correct me if I'm wrong, people from Serbia, there is they founded the energy cooperative in Serbia called Sunny Roofs. And I think that is working quite well, but we have to see how the law is backing up that, because of course we have to understand that, as I said earlier, we need to have a regulatory approach and a framework for energy cooperatives, and we need political support as well. Without those two, I think we are not going to be in the right tracks. The financing part should come as well, but for the financing part, you need to have all the legal frameworks in place in order to have some bankable projects to be considered by the international financial institutions. We also know that Bosnia has the law in place, but from what I know and from what I have heard, the political support in Bosnia is still missing. And this pretty sure is taking, or will be taking some time to reflect. So what do we have to do about this redistribution of power through people in the communities is quite important, and it requires a broader or holistic approach where we need to involve different stakeholders, communities, local governments, international financial institutions, in order to have successful projects. What else? So I think I'll stop here and perhaps wait for some comments and questions later.
Thank you very much, Vizar. That was really great that you managed to fit so much in so little time. Again, we repeat the point on choosing the right words and building a convincing narrative overall. I really keep that, as you said, especially in a context that is not regulated or an abandoned topic, as you called it, how you motivate people. For example, talking about the profit and so on, without ending up with an SME is really key. And all the information you gave us about Serbia, Bosnia, but I really keep your final statement on the redistribution of power and the holistic approach it takes, bringing together communities, local governments, and the international financial institutions. Thank you very much for this. And we will have one more presentation before we take a short break to stretch our legs a bit, get some water or coffee, and then we move to the last part of our today's session. So the person who will lead us to the short break will be Goran Čačić from Croatia, representing the Green Energy Cooperative, ZES, which is a cooperative based in Zagreb, in Croatia, and its mission is indeed to support citizens and the public sector in the use of renewable energy sources, in particular solar energy, and ZES develops concrete and sustainable solutions that promote the development of local communities. Goran is a senior technical expert and the president of the Cooperative Assembly at ZES, with extensive experience both in energy management and in sustainable energy, including capacity building, but also setting up improved operational processes, organizational structures, key things of this for continuous, active, and sustainable resources and energy management. So I'm sure he also has a lot to contribute to today's exchange. Goran, the floor is yours.
Thank you. You are a fast learner. You pronounced my surname perfectly, so thank you. Okay, I will try to be more positive because the same issues that were mentioned previously are present in Croatia as well. So the social mentality, the purchase power of our people or of citizens in Croatia and in region in Balkan is still small. The electricity prices are for the households subsidized. So basically there is no real incentive for them to invest some big money in renewable projects because it is still cheap enough to just buy the electricity from the grid. You have a strong state in all of our countries. So we are like open markets and everything. But for example, in Croatia, state has more than 60% of influence on the market. So basically nothing you can do in Croatia without actually stumbling upon the state. And we know that the state matters are often governed by the politics. So the politics are strong and usually in Balkan regions, you know, we have this previous bad experiences with cooperatives and with state telling us what to do. But unfortunately, we have the recent experience, bad or negative experience with the new entrepreneurs, which came after the state. And basically this is as well negatively accepted by the citizens when you come to them and say to them, okay, let's go and let's try to invest in some common project. They are really you know, suspicious of what will happen, how it will happen, and they reluctantly give the money to these kind of ideas. So you said that we in Green Energy Cooperative, in ZES, we are trying to assist the citizens, the cities, and anybody else who wants to try to start the community projects. So we try to provide to them the technical assistance, the legal assistance, and anything that we can to jumpstart the project. And we ourselves as a cooperative, we are working on some smaller projects of installment of renewable energy projects. Two of them were realized in cooperation with the city of Križevci. And at that point, and I think it still is, the easiest way to motivate community to join is just to simply give them the opportunity to invest the money with a fairly safe way of return of the money through the small loans. So basically, we as a cooperative, we took the risk of taking the small loans from 80 people, and we invested these loans in two smaller power plants or in cooperation with the city. So this was, you know, easily accepted and happily accepted by the community. We had more than enough of interested people to invest the money, but it was simple. So they just needed to give us the money, we signed the contract, and that's it. So they receive their returns yearly, and they are happy, and they ask for us, you know, come on, when will you do some other projects so we can give you the money and do nothing furthermore. So basically, the similar situation is all around the country. We have our members as well working on other cooperatives in Croatia, specifically even in the Adriatic region when there is enough sun. And it's really hard to get things started, to get even the initial 7 persons who would start the cooperative, and then you need to start to build up the project, develop the project, and everything else. The positive thing that is happening in Croatia is we had recently, and it was said by Stavrula at the beginning, we have introduced the definition of citizen energy community in the legislation. It was adopted recently on the 8th of October by the parliament. Unfortunately, it is the definition. It is more or less you know, copied the definition of the community from the directive. It has unfortunately some restrictions which are quite heavy, by my opinion. So you need to be on the same local municipality, and in Croatia we have more than 600 local municipalities. So it's quite small area from which the community members have to be. For example, some of the islands in Croatia have 5 or 6 municipalities on them. So basically you would need to have 5 or 6 communities there to work. And not that this is the only limitation. You have the limitation that they all have to be on the low level voltage transformer station. So basically, even in some small municipalities, especially if they are rural, you have like 6 or 7 transformer stations. So basically, this will the application of citizen energy community as it is defined now in the law will be applicable in urban areas where you have big communities around the transformer station on one local municipality. But this is a start. I don't mind. This is a start, and we will push for the changes as we go. The renewable energy community, it should be adopted by the end of the year. But again, it is just the definition which is, copied from the directive. It's open, it's this and that. We don't have this important thing, which was also mentioned by Stavrula, the enabling framework. So we have the definition, we have the legislation, we will have the laws, but we don't know what will be the practical enabling framework to make things work. Because without of it, we won't have a significant, easy step forward. So I want to stay positive. And recently, we have seen in Croatia the big increase of interest for renewable energy sources. I think that this situation with the increase of prices of the gas, natural gas, is going to in favor for the renewable energy communities and citizen energy communities. So by my opinion, this is a plus. Unfortunately, in Croatia, the government has decided not to transfer this cost to the citizens. It is good for citizens as a current help, but in the long run, it won't help, motivation of the citizens to make them more active. And there is increase of practical knowledge about the community power, cooperatives, and more interest of people to join the community and cooperatives. The thing what is missing is actual technical and legal support to these interested individuals to help them start the work. Financial or technical support in development of the project documentation, because sometimes it costs a lot to develop the technical documentation, to even start to build the community and find the interested citizens to invest the money in the project. So you need some kind of a help to start it. So this is something that is missing. And I personally think, and we as a ZES are working with this, cities as entities which are closest to the citizens have to be more active in actually joining the communities and cooperatives and together working on development of these kind of projects. So I think that this will happen. It is a slow run. It's not a 100-meter race. It's more of a marathon race. But there are significant positive effects which are happening in Croatia, and I think in the region as well.
Thank you very much, Goran, for keeping it positive. I keep indeed the strong influence of the state in the Croatian market. Your comment and your, let's say, encouragement to keep it simple for people to be involved, keep it as simple as possible so they can invest their money, have the opportunity to invest their money. And the fact that you have, let's say, what you call it's a start with the transposition of the directive, even if it's just a translation, you have the definition, you have an overall positive context with an increase in renewables and practical knowledge, and support will come, as you said, and we heard it also before. It's a marathon race. It takes time. And let's give ourselves also a bit of time now, 5 minutes for a short break to stretch our legs, get some water. The audience can also give it a thought and add some questions to the questions we already have on the table. And we reconvene at 5:25, or depending on your time zone, 4:25. for the last bit of today's session. Thank you very much for now, and see you in 5 minutes. Glad to see most of you back. And I would encourage everybody else to also join us again so that we can slowly start. I know that the break has been short, but we still have a long way to go and a very interesting way to go if we judge from the first part. Yes, in most of you back, but maybe we start, even if not everybody has managed to open their cameras yet, but I'm sure they will do. So officially, I would like to welcome everybody back, both our speakers and our participants, to the second part of day 2 of the Energy Democracy Dialogues, and where we're putting the energy democracy under the microscope with a focus in the Balkans. We are having this thing I call the Balkan road trip today, and we have started in Bosnia and Herzegovina. We heard what's the situation in Greece, in North Macedonia, in Kosovo, in Croatia. We heard some introductory remarks about the transposition of the European directive and the overall situation in the region. And our trip continues in the second part of our today's session in Albania. And we'll be hearing from Media Contact in Albania that has more than 90 years of experience working with civil society on environment, nature, and sustainable development, as well as with authorities dealing with all these issues in Albania. And at the core of their work is, of course, capacity building and involving citizens and solving all these environmental problems. Their expertise does not only include supporting truly bottom-up processes, but also the expert knowledge on a variety of environmental topics, including the environmental legislature. And Valbrona Mazrek is the person representing the organization, the founder and director of Media Contact in Albania for a long time now, since 2000. Valbrona has a background in biology and law from the University of Tirana, with extensive experience managing national and regional programs in all these fields we mentioned above: environment, sustainable development, but also in ecotourism and public participation. She has co-authored many publications, manual studies, and other reports in these fields, and also works as a lecturer in these topics of environmental policy and education. So we will be glad to have her experience around the table. So Valbrona, a warm welcome to you.
Good afternoon, everybody. To the long experience that Michaelis was telling about me, I would say that I'm not expert on energy. Recently, I have been more engaged into energy projects and trying to develop such projects in Albania, which is a difficult also country to work on energy, even though when we say energy in transition, Albania is not in transition. We have 98% of the energy coming from hydro, so we are somehow green country on that respect. But when it comes to democracy, when it comes to security of energy, then this is the weak point for Albania. And that's the reason why we would like to work more on renewable energy and to introduce it into the community. And as Albania is been working a lot on this sector and the reform on energy, still as in few countries, we can say that the energy community concept is not there, is not in the legal framework, is not in a regulatory framework, so it is not recognized. We do have only recognized in the law the self-consumption of energy up to 500 kilowatts. People can use renewable energy for producing, which again, by law, you have the right to invest on it, but when it comes to the sub-legal acts and to all the regulatory framework, it is missing, and still it is mainly government with their laws and strategies that is trying to support only big businesses in order to invest on renewable. So Albania has been also recently opened into the market for big projects on photovoltaics, on wind power, etc. Then in this respect, still energy community is not something that have started. Somebody mentioned, and few persons mentioned, that it is, let's say, a process. Yes, it is a process. We are in the beginning, and we are trying to get this concept introduced to starting from NGOs and then continuing also to local communities and get their, let's say, interest on the issue, and also just to start and think that it's not something that it's very costly. There are some costs involved, but needs also, let's say, a business plan and a strategic way of thinking on it. So also what I just wanted to say in my presentation is that yes, it has been mentioned, lack of historic experience, low trust among people, cooperative. It is a concept or a word that you should not use in Albania, but also there are other lack of political support when it comes to the community energy and the mindset of the politics. This is also something that should be somehow more open, transparent, and the new, let's say, development in the price of energy recently might be also a good, let's say, a good starting point for us to advocate and start a change into the legal framework in order to have this concept and the whole, let's say, directives transposed also into Albanian legislation. Yes, as partner in the energy community treaty, we should, we have certain obligations, but still, when it comes to the technical side, Albania is missing a lot of technical things in order to make the energy stable. So it is not recommended by the national authorities that citizens can start such actions into their own. They are more pro of the idea that photovoltaics and all those things should be mainly used by public institutions that have also a certain, let's say, usage during the day. But I'd not like to go into this detail, but I'd further go on to also let's say, strategy that we are trying to use in Albania to work with youth and also innovative projects in order to get more into the topic, because this is also something that, let's say, should give earlier results. Also, as the expertise is missing, young people are also more into the learning processes and open to new technologies and also new jobs, which is also very well articulated in the Green Agenda, which is equal to Green Deal, European Green Deal. So these are some of the elements that I wanted to stress, as well as and the last thing is the partnership with the local authorities, because we believe that this will make a little bit more easy to include local community, because also answers lie within the community, and we would like to have local authorities more approachable and to play a very good role on doing best examples, starting and using renewable energy into their, let's say, housing and retrofitting and building and everything that is related to their daily work, public activities. And then these ideas can be further developed through creative processes and participative, let's say, processes from the community. Maybe a lot has been said by prior presenters, so I don't know what to add else.
No, I mean, thank you very much, Valbona. Indeed, many similarities identified when it comes to the challenges regarding the legal framework that is missing, that is the beginning of the process. I like what you said, that cooperative is not a concept to use in Albania, but I really keep the positive things you mentioned to us, your strategy to work with the youth, which I think is a big opportunity, and the partnerships with local authorities, which I understand is key everywhere. And also thank you for mentioning the Energy Community Treaty, because this is important to keep in mind for the framework, since not every country around the table is, of course, an EU member state. So the Energy Community Treaty is indeed important to always keep in mind for the context in which you operate, guys. From Albania, now we fly over to Bucharest in Romania to meet Cooperativa de Energie, the first supplier and producer of green energy with using this framework in Romania. And what makes them special is that everyone can become a member with decision-making power there and are able to invest in future renewable energy production and supply, a new concept in Romania. And their purpose is to help regular consumers, of course, to be active participants in the energy market. And Adrian Munteanu will be the person to let us know more about what is happening there. A founding member of the cooperative, he's working on the community development, on operations, on marketing, on PR strategy and content. And this is probably why he describes himself as Jack of all trades. He's a degree holder of the Polytechnic University of Bucharest, and in the past he has had extensive experience in the NGO sector before joining this new venture, and we're all excited to hear how is this going. Adrian, thank you for being here. Or not being here. No, we lost Adrian halfway there, but until we get him back, maybe we reroute a bit and we change our course until my dear colleagues find Adrian and bring him back. We go to Montenegro then, and we meet their organization COD. Since its founding in 2017 until today, they have been gathering people from various fields, enthusiasts of the grassroots organizations, and they have given, but they have not given up components of the watchdog and the think tank activities. They have been particularly successful in an organization with 35 active members and about 60 external associates, a big network of 300 volunteers. And from what I read, a very influential also organization when it comes to their media resonance. So they bring together civic activists, professors, and experts in many fields. And their main motto, what brings them together, is action or reaction to reality. Miodrag Vujovic will let us know more about them and their work. He's the Secretary General and co-founder of organization COD. And his professional interests include all the way from tourism to financial consulting, but also consulting regarding sustainable development. And we're all very much interested to hear more from Miodrag Vujovic. Before then, we'll travel back to Bucharest for Cooperativa de Energy. Miodrag and organization COD, the floor is yours.
Thank you for the introduction. So hello from me. First of all, just to say that I'm not an energy expert, so I'm in the field of economy. So I'll try to do my best. I have in the organization code, we have experts in this field, but today I will be speaking about what we do in this field. So normally we try to communicate with people with those short video forms that we are preparing. So we try to be a little bit different. And we do have our own video production. And so we are looking to see where the rights of people are violated, and then we try to jump in and to help them and to make a short video movies and so on. So I will not talk now about the projects that we did so far, but I will just point out one project that is in line with this topic today, and that project is called Small Hydropower Plants. It was financed by the Heinrich Bell. This project was related to the monitoring of the problems of construction of small hydropower plants, and pointing out their fatality from both ecological and economic point of view. In the end, the 6 video clips were made about this specific case, 2 roundtables were held, and a study brochure were done. So now, when we talk about energy democracy in Montenegro, we still don't have a clear vision where we as a country are going through. So the plans of the governments are various and don't comply one with another. Currently in the sea, in Montenegro, we have expeditional oil platform, like they're drilling and trying to find the oil. While on the other side, we recently celebrated, it was, I don't know, a few tens of days ago, the 30 years of being self-proclaimed first in the world ecological state. So as for mini hydropower plants, some progress in Montenegro was done. So the government has planned 55 of these in Montenegro, and recently 7 contracts have been terminated. But it is only for those to be built. And for all of those running or in construction, nothing has changed in Montenegro. So green generally should represent rivers and pure and drinkable water. Green should represent the welfare of the environment and living creatures and humans. So just sorry, somebody is interrupting the call. Am I back? Yes, I am. Somebody called me, sorry. So what they want to do at the north part of the country where they are building those small hydropower plants, they want to take the rivers from the villagers and farmers and generally at the end to cut life to those people in the north, only for those small for those owners of those small hydropower plants. Our next step are advocating for energy democracy in such a way that the government has a clear vision or where we are headed, because controversies over being an ecological state and having all drilling in our sea is just unacceptable. All of this is our agenda, and with the help of Heinrich Bell, we are now in process of creating proposition to change particular laws and regulation that will protect the natural resources and the future green energy projects. We must not allow ourselves that in lack of legal protection and poor legislation, we as a community, at the end, we do pay more and bigger price. Focus right now on us is on a mini hydropower plants regulation, but we also want to expand this to other fields concerning environment and resource management. Another problem in Montenegro is that often green projects are being followed, as the colleague from Albania said, by corruption and abuse of law, and in many cases, those projects are linked with public officials and in many cases with their relatives. Good side of these bad things that I just mentioned is that we are developing slowly and still regulations and laws are not clearly determined. So here we maybe have the potential to do the impact. So recently in Montenegro, we have changed the government after 3 decades. So now on that side, we have some new people who are listening, and maybe we can push them. Maybe this is the time to change the regulation and to make it in the way to be self-sustainable. Annually, Montenegro, it's again, because the Albania is the freshest in my mind now, because I was listening, it's not, we do not produce as much electricity from hydropower as Albania. Not almost the half of the energy that we produce in Montenegro is being produced from the thermal power plant. It's 50%. It's in Pljevlja, and we have two other hydropower plants, which produce 40%. They are called Peručica and Pliva. So in total, those two hydropower and one coal plant produce 90% of the energy that we need for a state. The rest of 10% is produced by solar plants and windmill plants, and about 3% is being produced by those small hydropower plants. Due to COA emission, the EU Commission has demanded from Montenegro that by the end of 2030 we do cut on the thermal hydropower plant Pljevlja, and then we will remain without 50% of the electricity which we are producing so far. And also, beside the ecological point of view, we do have a social economic problem because many people will live without their jobs. So this is something what we have to think about. But what the government was thinking about recently is about a new hydropower plant, again, the third one, which is called Komarnica. And this hydropower plant is about to produce 7% of the total electricity in Montenegro. They justify construction of this Komarnica, this hydropower plant, because they have to shut down this coal plant Pljevlja, and this one will produce around only 50% of the energy which we will lose from cutting and shutting down the thermoelektrana Pljevlja. So what we as an organization think is the better that we do in Montenegro is to go with some kind of, if I can call it, energy mix, since we already have two hydropower plants, and we should impose solar and wind energy. What complicates even more this project on Komarnica is the return on the investment, which is at least 30 years. So the country needs 30 years to return the investment which we will spend. And plus, one of the most attractive canyons in Montenegro will be flooded. Also, hydropower plant Komarnica would cost between 250 to 300 millions, maybe even more, because the construction material prices of the construction material went crazily up in the past year, so it can cost even more. So, for argument's sake, those wind plants, we have two, Krnova and Možura. They costed about 210 millions. So it's almost 1 million less than this plant hydropower power, and they produce around 100 gigawatts more than this hydropower plant would produce in the future. So wind plants cost less. The return of the investment is 3 times shorter. So the return investment would be, I think, around 10 years, even less. But we still stick to this hydropower plant for some reason. I'm not sure why it is. The question what we are asking ourselves is why we don't invest in wind farms, and at the same time we have a larger amount of energy and is better preserved. The concerns that we have, as I mentioned, is that many of those people, as I mentioned, maybe the answer is there, that many of those people who are the owners of those small hydropower plants are people who are related with people who are public officials or relatives of public officials, and they do receive subsidies from the government in order to produce the energy. So in a way, that energy costs more to ordinary people than the energy on the market. So maybe that's it from me for the moment. I don't want to go too much in details for the future conversation.
Thank you very much, Miodrag. Thank you very much. Hydropower plant is definitely at the core of the national context. I mean, it's clear. As it's also clear that the energy democracy in Montenegro still has no clear plan about the way forward. You mentioned also the controversies between the label of an ecological state and what is actually happening. You mentioned also corruption and abuse of law. I'm sure this is also something we can discuss or address in the coming interventions as well. And I also keep the need for better energy mix. You mentioned also the clear case for the wind farms. But I guess
sorry to jump in. What I need that I know because we changed the government, and now also again these guys, it's easier to say, okay, the laws are different, we cannot cut on the contracts and so on. So what we are trying right now, also with the help of Heinrich Bell, is to find the legal reasons to go through all of those contracts, to find the legal reasons to cut on those contracts, because people are at the north are really desperate, because if they cut them, the rivers there is no need, there is no way that they would stay and live there. So we need support from, I don't know, from region, from outside, to make a pressure on institutions to find a way to make everyday pressure on institutions to do something, because otherwise I don't think neither the new government will do something about it.
Good luck, because it sounds like a very demanding job you have to do. We go back now to Romania, since I see that Adrian managed to join us. Let me check again. Yes, Adrian is there now.
Hello.
I'm happy to see you, Adrian, because before I introduced you, but it was a surprise that you weren't there, so I won't introduce Cooperativa de Energie again. I'm just going to share again that you're a founding member of them and doing pretty much all kinds of jobs for Cooperativa, and we're all interested to hear more about your work in Bucharest and Romania, guys. So the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I'll try to be as brief as possible in order to allow more time for our colleagues. Mainly we opened Cooperativa de Energie in November 2018. So it was quite a while. As you said, we have the energy communities law here in Romania transposed, but it doesn't really help us a lot, because, for example, the cooperative law is quite outdated, and it would allow, it's a perfect match if you have a cooperative of 5 people. But if you plan to have a mass cooperative, then that's harder. That's why at the core, Cooperativa de Energie is a European cooperative. So we are based on European regulation, one of the first so-called European cooperatives here in Romania. And since then, we've grown to about 700 members. And I must say that we are kind of special, so to say, in when you compare us to other cooperatives, because we started with supply business, with energy supply business as a main focus. We've been supplying renewable electricity since August this year. And one of the main challenges, but I think that's the same for all cooperatives in Europe, is the present rise in prices and really confusing and strange European energy market. That's one of the issues. But I side of the business of the cooperative, grow our community as much as possible, and also we're looking for projects that we can develop, especially in the photovoltaic side, because that's our main focus here in Romania. It's the easiest to manage, easiest to invest in, and the easiest to present to our members, compared to hydropower. That's a no-no for us, and also wind is quite expensive for us at the moment. What we're also working on that is quite hard is to be we are the only supplier in the Romanian market that has an openness to prosumers and the people that produce their own electricity. We have a really easy sign-up flow for them on our website, and we also try to offer the best possible support. For the moment, prosumers in Romania are seen kind of game breakers for big energy suppliers, and nobody really cares or wants to have much business with them. And that's something that we're working on. It takes a while because we're not alone in the energy market. We work with distributors, we work with the state authorities and everyone else. And that proves a bit of a challenge sometimes. But we try to do our best, and also to be financially viable in order to offer returns to our members that invested in the cooperative. That's about it. If you have questions, I'm happy to answer.
No, thanks a lot, Adrian. That was really short and to the point. And I really keep what you said about the directive, which is transposed in your context, but it doesn't really help since the cooperative law is outdated. I also keep, compared to what we heard before, that hydrogen power plants are not an issue there, but PV is probably the easiest project to manage and to invest in, which is also important to note from Romania. And also how easy you make it for prosumers to sign up, also through your projects and how you work with all kinds of stakeholders. So it's really good overview of what is happening and what your role in this context is. We zoom out now a bit and we stay in the region, but we'll be listening from the German Citizen Energy Alliance, the Bürgerenergie, that represents about 500,000 active energy citizens in Germany. Their citizen energy projects are an essential pillar of Germany's power supply, since they provide about 20% of the total electricity supply of Germany, which is very significant. And this organization supports networks of actors in regions involved in citizens' energy in order to shape innovative ideas on decentralized energy transition. Cristina André will be speaking on behalf of the organization. She has been the executive board member since 2019. She has a background in communication. She has co-authored the European Green New Deal of DN25, the political party that ran for the European parliamentary elections. She was also candidate together with Yanis Varoufakis in 2019. But Cristina, that's interesting, is originally from ex-Yugoslavia, North Serbia, with Hungarian roots. She covers a really big part of the region, and she describes herself as 100% renewable energy and local energy autonomy advocate, ecofeminist, a mother of two girls, promoting decentral energy turnaround by 2030 to combat climate change. And along with her role, the Bürgerenergie, she is also board member of Eurosolar and co-chair of IRENA, which is the community energy group of the International Renewable Energy Agency. Cristina, we're really interested to hear your insights.
Thank you very much, Michalis. So my role will be today to lift you a bit up out of the countries, a little bit looking at certain developments. I will first of all would like to invite you to go 30 years back in time to Germany. In South Germany, where I am, this was the birthplace of renewable energies at all, like the solar movement and energy cooperative movement as such. 30 years ago, there was an initiative where satellite technology used for the satellites, like the solar cells, were so attractive that a group of people thought, let's bring it down to the earth. And there were few hubs in Germany who started this. And thanks to this initiative, or these small initiatives, we are now sitting here and we are able to invest less than 1,000 euro less than 1,000 euro, like about 800 euros for 1 kilowatt peak of installation at the moment. And the prices are going to fall. And I can tell you, back 30 years back, these people, they had two goals. First of all, to make it a mass phenomena, to achieve the price decrease. And the third very, very important point was cooperation and passing over the knowledge to the next group and to act locally. So they didn't want to expand, because there was, of course, once they were founded and they started their operation, many communities and other regions invited them, please help us going this way, and you are the bosses and we will just follow what you say. And they said, no, we pass you the knowledge, you manage yourself. So this is a mission which continued living the next 30 years within Germany, passing of the knowledge, passing of opportunities, the networking. And this is what I would also like to give into your hands. This is the most powerful tool to cooperate also interregionally, or as we do it today. So as you noticed, I'm from the Balkans myself, but living in Germany, I'm willing to pass you over the opportunity to contact me anytime if you need any bridging over to these many German cooperatives. And we are also working on an online school of citizen energy, where you can hopefully watch videos which are giving a bit insight in this diversity, huge diversity of business models, of actors, of energy cooperatives, but also like NGOs who are producing electricity, and of diverse actors. And then you will be able to cook your own meal out of this, to choose which one will be fitting to your own needs, to your own possibilities. So the first 10 years of this pioneer time, they were uncomfortable. There were no laws, very difficult, till one small group of people, they made over almost at the parliamentary summer break, they got together and they put 3 A4 pages together of a law, and they passed it. Already people were thinking about holidays, and this 3-page, 1 cover page, 1 signature page was passed in the Bundestag in Berlin. And this was the ground for the feed-in tariff to bridge over those times while the PV modules are so expensive and not reachable for a normal human being. And this is what caused the revolution in Germany. And it was flourishing and growing like crazy. You maybe know from history that each big change happens with not linear, it's not like slow steps, but once you reach about 10-12% of the 100% scale, it will get into an exponential curve. It will jump and it will stop or slow down in an S form slowly before the end, like about 90% or 85%. This is kind of law which is used by modeling. Rethink X, Tony Seba are a few of the names or who can show you this. So what we are doing is, I'm now talking about the middle of this S curve, which started jumping in Germany. It was flourishing for 10 years. And after this 10 years passed, those forces who were living out of the old centralistic system, they organized themselves. And in the last 10 years now, they are trying to kill this decentralized energy transition. There is I think there are like about 200 pages of a publication where all the laws are listed which try to hinder this development. 200 pages. And still it's getting through. It's like water getting through the smallest little opening. So we are this water. We won't have it convenient for now, but we will win. So this is very important for you to know. Don't look that it's comfortable or something. Take the fun part of it. Like I can tell you 30 years ago, there was maybe one of the first plug and play modules installed in South Germany in a research institution. They even didn't have a microinverter. So they kind of built together a big box to succeed DC to AC, and they just plugged it in and nobody noticed. So this was running like for some years, even illegally, and nobody noticed. Nothing broke down, nothing collapsed. So therefore, in the frame of this UCINA, European Citizen Energy Academy, what I told you, this we will also show even the smallest. This is the smallest little part of the revolution. Through what people can learn, what it is, they can get in touch with this big universe and start not looking down as the system. We are tied to our earth, but the energy, we have now these little micro tools. We have the sun, which is outside of our earth. Therefore we don't have to be in concurrence, because everybody will have it. Everybody has sun, everybody has wind. And our task is to show that this wind, and this sun, which is coming down here, there where you sit, where you stand, where your house is, where your community is, when your neighborhood is, it belongs to you. So this is your responsibility to take care that people are aware of it, that you have this possibility, that you organize, make little workshops of plug and play modules, let it travel around. 60 watt will not hurt anyone. Microinverter is about 40 euros. You get some cable, make a little workshop, and just start doing your thing. I don't tell you do it illegally. Be careful, use it. Use it when the sun is shining. Think about how to store it. You can store it, maybe Anna and Mark will later on tell, like you can store it in heat. But there is another interesting revolution going on parallel to this one, to the solar revolution. And it's the batteries of the electric vehicles, from small electric vehicles to big ones like trucks or ships or whatever. And this is very, very tightly connected, first of all, to solar. 2/3 of the German electricity, or not electricity, I'm getting out of electricity. Electricity will cover everything. We will be mainly an electrical society. 2/3 will be produced by solar, 1/3 by wind, and we have to take care of some storage. So the storage is like, there is a price drop in battery technology. So battery cells, like you see solar cells and battery cells, they're both like small and powerful. You can just add it up as much money you have, you just tick, add it up. And then you can start storing the sun and storing your sun and your wind in your own community locally. It's called vehicle to grid. Vehicle to grid technology is like pretty advanced. In the Netherlands, there will be whole cities. They are building it now. Whole cities converted. So the gas pipelines are torn out of some of the cities, and the cars will be connected into this grid. So if you have it's important to get the proportions, the cocktail. It's a recipe, like you use mostly solar, you add a little bit of wind, and you are already at about 74% of instant coverage each millisecond of the time. So you can reach almost 3/4 without any storage and any smart devices. You just, as you wish, as anybody uses, or as the sun shines, as the wind is blowing. So that's you can reach 74%, and the rest you will have to use maybe some smart devices, like not smart devices, but let's say just simple things. Use the energy when you have it. Try to use it for heating, cooling, whatever, mobility. And then of course you will need the pure storages, and the pure storage is maybe like 4%, just that you understand. Like you only have to cover 4%, which is really, really small. And by some, as I said, Tony Seba, he has a pretty good tool, modeling tool of the energy system, total energy system, even including industries. And they calculated that in 2030 we will need only like 3 or 4 days to be able to cover the energy needs. So we don't need much storage.
Christina, may I kindly ask you to come to a conclusion, please? Yes.
So the conclusion is that for the Balkans, that you have to cooperate, and that you have to educate the people and organize yourself, and wait for the moment when the legislative framework will help you step forward. Till that moment, you have to be ready with all those. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. I couldn't summarize it better myself. Cooperate, educate, be ready when the legislative framework is there. Thank you very much for all your inspiring words. Also with the looking back at history, giving us a tip how you can go through law in the parliament just before the summer break. Thank you very, very much. And also for your offer to collaborate with anyone interested. I would like now to move to our next guest, our next speaker. We will go back to Bosnia-Herzegovina. We will meet the Center for Environment, and especially we'll meet Majda Ibrakovic. The Center for Environment is an organization that is clearly focused on environmental issues since 1999 that it was established. It's a non-profit and non-partisan association that advocate changes in society, influencing policies, public awareness, and so on. Their vision is summarized in a sentence I personally find nice: a just society is responsible for acting in accordance to nature. No surprise that the Center for Environment is also a member organization of Friends of the Earth. Majda Ibrakovic graduated from the Faculty of Math and Science in Tourism and Environmental Protection in Sarajevo, and she has been an activist in her hometown for years, dealing with topics such as environment, culture, civic solidarity and disobedience, as well as sustainable living and change of consciousness. So now Majda has been active with the organization since 2019 with a focus on their energy and climate change program. And I'm sure she has a lot of interesting insights to share. So Majda, the floor to you, and thank you for being with us.
Well, thank you, Michalis, for this really nice introduction. And I would like to thank everyone else and the previous speakers for their inspiring minutes. It's really a challenge to be among the last ones speaking in this panel, but I hope the energy is still there. First of all, yeah, I would like to apologize a bit if my presentation skills today are not at their best, because my health state and it was my vaccination day. So I was really trying to listen to what everybody has said. And I have to say that I really highly resonate with some of the previous statements on the situation in the Western Balkans when it comes to energy democracy. I'm also happy to share our own experiences and some good and bad energy practices with all of the others, especially those coming from the Western Balkan countries. I also want to say that it's really nice to see some of familiar faces and people and from organizations that actually inspired us to go towards this path. And I want to emphasize that I'm here on the behalf of my colleagues who initiated this topic in our organization and that created this space for us to engage more in the topic of energy decentralization and democratization. So I myself, I'm more engaged in the campaign regarding coal and the coal phase-out process in our country and the region. But personally, I'm really interested into this topic, and I hope to pass on our experience as well in this panel. So regarding Center for Environment, you mentioned that we're present for the past more than 20 years in Bosnia and Herzegovina. And I'm glad that Vedat had a chance to say a lot of most of the experiences coming from and challenges and prospects coming from Bosnia and Herzegovina, but actually coming from a grassroots environmental organization that has several programs, and those are focused mostly on the level of protected areas on one side, and those that are focused on dirty energy projects from the other side. I would like to emphasize that our program, Energy and Climate Change, has been active for more than 15 years. And what is really kind of important for us that we were mostly in the past 15 years focused on harmful energy projects and their bad impacts to environment. This is mostly involving a bad hydropower plants project, big ones and small ones, but also on the other side, coal projects, mines, and coal-fired power plants. So what I already said, I'm mostly engaged in the anti-coal campaigning, and my colleagues that are in the anti-dam movement. So a lot of anti here that I'm speaking, and we kind of, in the whole scope of our work, we wanted to avoid this anti-prefix of our work. And doing all of these anti-campaigns, of course, it is needed because, as you most of you know, our system is mostly based on coal, more than 60%. We have a lot of big hydro facilities in the country, and a really small proportion of solar and wind. It's actually less than 2% of our technical potentials and possibilities in the country, which is really devastating. So that was something that actually made us think on some possible solutions. And I must say that we're not energy experts. We are really a grassroots environmental CSO covering different environmental issues in the country. But on the other side, we noticed that we should deal with the solutions as well. And one of those solutions that I mentioned already, it's solar Petska is one of the, not so many citizens, community energy projects and initiatives in Bosnia and Herzegovina. So what I mentioned, one of their own, and solar Petska is also actually, it's one village. Petska is a village in central Bosnia and Herzegovina. And also Solar Petska is name of the citizens community energy initiative in Visitor Center Petska. So the Visitor Center, it's an ex-old school that, because of depopulation in the village, it actually transformed since the past 10 years, it transformed into a visitor center that is open for everyone and is dealing mainly with tourism, environmental, and other activities in the center. But on the other side, this place was also affected by a big hydropower plant, really harmful one, located just near the beautiful springs of Sana River. So this was kind of our motivation in opposing to this project, and of course coal, to start this initiative of building solar panels on this school, which was totally funded by citizens. And actually the main point is that it is being used by the local community and the villagers of Petska village. And of course, all the other organizations and people that, tourists that come to this village. Through this process, I must say, it was a crowdfund campaign that we initiated with another CSO, the local one from Petska. And the crowdfunding campaign lasted for 30 days, and we collected $13,000 for the installment of these PVs and collectors. But what's the most astonishing thing about it is that more than 200 people, organizations, citizens, everyone actually from the worldwide participated in the project, which makes it really citizens engaged, and villagers, of course, not to be oriented on only one side. But I wanted to say that it really engaged not only this community, but it showed the big interest of people in these projects. But however, I would like to state some of the challenges that actually taught us to deal better with this process, because in my opinion and opinion of my colleagues, we kind of entered this process really early, at an early stage, without not having any support from the legislation. And some of the challenges that we noticed are actually in this process, that we were actually, as a country, but also probably other Western Balkan countries, are 10 to 20 to even 30 years behind others. And we in Bosnia are even behind some countries in the Western Balkans, as I saw today, but we are still not too late. Our complicated bureaucracy of different 14 levels of government entities, it makes it really difficult for us to identify all the key stakeholders in this process of energy transition, and of course energy democracy, and introducing renewable energy communities or prosumers at all. So also to state that energy democracy is actually not really well-known and used term in the Western Balkans, especially Bosnia and Herzegovina, and neither is community energy movement as such. So there are several attempts to actually change this, which I'm really happy about, but we still have a lot of work to do. The current state of play in our country, coming from the institutions, the politicians, is a big problem. We have a lack of this energy market, and we have a lack of possible economic technical difficulties of our current energy system. We personally had a lot of issues with Solar Petska, with obtaining all the permits, allowances. This process took actually almost 2 years, and we got the funds for 2 months, which is insane. What I also think is important is that this shrinking civil space, especially of environmental CSOs in Bosnia and Herzegovina, and especially ones that deal with topic of energy democracy, is a real big issue here. And something that colleagues mentioned before is cooperatives, prosumers are not recognized, especially in Bosnia, in both entities. So they're not recognized equally in the entities, which we have 2 entities and 1 district. So the legislation is really making it hard for us to deal with energy democracy. But on the other side, I would like to emphasize that in the next period, we will be mostly involved in the new legislation on renewable energy sources coming in Republika Srpska, 1 entity in Bosnia and Herzegovina, but soon probably in the other entity. And we are currently doing this public campaign, which is focused on informing the people on this process, informing them of their rights, which we think that should go hand in hand towards the people, towards the communities, and not towards investors. For instance, some colleagues mentioned small hydropower plants that are a big problem in the Balkans. And we think in these terms that as actual small hydropower, even those type of projects, should belong to the communities, and they should be the ones to decide on these renewable energy sources, and they should be the ones using it, right? So
sorry, may I kindly ask you to come to an end, please?
Sure, I'm there.
Thank
so
you.
What we actually want with this campaign towards the public, and what we want to emphasize, that we have a big prospect of the new legislation coming up in Bosnia and Herzegovina and the following period. We want to bring everyone on board with this campaign to inform citizens on their rights. We want to change something. We cannot change everything, but we can start at least recognizing prosumers and renewable energy communities. And we want to cut incentives and bring them to the citizen energy project, which we think is the most important thing. Who will benefit? It's our fear from all of this process. We hope not only the investors, commercial projects, but actual citizens. But I want to state 2 questions that I have for everyone else, is maybe even negative impacts of community energy projects, especially towards environment or even the technology being used and such, because we have some really serious dilemmas even in our campaigning towards renewables and community energy projects. So hope I didn't take too much time, and thank you very much.
Thank you. I keep the question maybe for the end, and I definitely keep your point on the shrinking civil space, because I find it particularly alarming and relevant for many places. A lot of things to be against, to be anti of, but thank you for providing this positive example and the potential that also models like the crowdfunding campaign can have in a context like yours. Thank you very much, Maida. And last but definitely not least in this really inspiring round, we have 2 speakers, Ana Jokic and Mark Milan from the Serbian context, from Electra Energy Cooperative, a new player in the energy sector in Serbia. At the end of 2019, this cooperative was initiated by a group of enthusiasts dealing in various ways with renewable energy sources and innovative ways of civic organizing people around them. The Electra Cooperative was created with the intention of being to be one of the key actors, let's say, in empowering citizens to more actively participate in the transition of the Serbian energy sector towards renewables. And they aim to establish a network of decentralized rooftop solar power plants and collectively owned solar parks across Serbia. Just this year, they launched their course on solar technique to the people. And actually, the second edition must be taking place now. Maybe we will hear more from them. Anna Jokic and Mark Nieland are founding members of Electra Energy in Belgrade and pioneers of all the small-scale rooftop solar in Serbia. They're active in a number of organizations and cooperatives dealing with all these contemporary housing conditions. And for over 20 years, they are running Stealth Unlimited, which is an internationally recognized architectural and artistic practice. So many different skills there. Thank you for being there, both of you, Anna and Mark. The floor is yours.
Thanks a lot for inviting us, and we will try to keep a bit upbeat at the end, so to keep the good energy. And especially thanks to the few last speakers, it was very inspiring to hear concrete examples and supportive stories. And when we started Electra in the end of 2019, it was a group of people that half a year before that didn't know each other. There were 8 of us that managed to get together around some obstacles that were there in starting up a small-scale rooftop solar in Serbia. And these obstacles actually brought us together. And the idea of the cooperative, and this, as it was said, was on one hand to support energy democratization, but on the other hand also to practice the cooperative from within, and not to speak about it, but really do it. And our intention from the very beginning was to go through the process by learning by doing. So instead of studying the obstacles, to really try to go through them and to figure out how they can be resolved. What has happened meanwhile is that the legislative framework has changed, luckily, in Serbia since this April. And since 2 weeks ago, we actually have a legislation also, or some additional documents on prosumers. So prosumers are since recently possible in Serbia, although practically how to go to procedure is not really yet clear. For 2 of us, we are not energy experts, we are architects by background. And the story for us started by installing 5 years ago a small-scale solar power plant of 2 kilowatt peak on our own roof. And just hear about, and we really came to all sorts of obstacles and non-understanding of institutions to our case. And we decided at that point to really be guinea pigs and to bring our own case to the surface and to use it actually to advocate for a change of policy. And this kind of entry point was very interesting and brought to a lot of attention. There were videos mentioned. There's one short video brought to about 500,000 viewers in Serbia. And that really made a quite a big, I think, impact and understanding of people that something is possible, but actually the legislation is an obstacle. And when we established the cooperative, our first aim was originally to unite prosumers, because at that point there was no legal framework for households to export surplus energy, as prosumer was not legislatively possible. So our first original idea was that cooperative would be serving as a legal entity for united prosumers all across Serbia, not dependent on a location where they are. Now with the change of legal framework, that is actually for the time being not necessary, probably until the point that the net metering net billing instead of net metering will be introduced, which is in the rest of EU expected from 1st of January 2024. So there is a bit of space to play with the prosumer status and net metering, but later on the situation will change. And from that point, we also see a possibility for energy cooperative to unite prosumers and actually have internal energy market. And that is one of the things that we would like to create. Meanwhile, we started working on a potential collective solar power plant, and we don't have a location yet. But yeah, it is one of our aims is actually to create a collective power plant, and actually through the process actually find out how does that work. Now, in terms of energy cooperatives, in the legal framework, cooperatives are recognized legally, but as we heard from Romania, there is a similar, let's say, in some way outdated status of cooperatives. So for instance, cooperants can be only individuals, physical persons, and not legal bodies, which makes it difficult for organizations, civil society organizations or other organizations or municipalities to be related to cooperatives. So this is an obstacle with which we have to live for time being, and as we are not part of European Union, we cannot unfortunately introduce the form of European cooperative society yet. Although the two of us are part of European Cooperative Society for Housing Cooperatives, and we are quite familiar with this format, which is very interesting and could be relevant and interesting across our countries, and maybe as a form to unite into and work together. So this is something to think further on. And do you want to say something about the course?
No, you can say.
And the course Solar Technique to the People has started, Solar Technica Narodu, for those that speak Serbo-Croatian, Bosnian, Montenegrin, is a course that we started in April this year in a test edition. And right now, from this Monday, today, and on Saturday, we have the second module going on. And the idea is basically to transmit our things that we learned to others, to involve also experts from the field of legal framework, and also practical construction of solar power plants. And tonight, actually starting in half an hour, we have a session on what the new legislation brings in Serbia, what possibilities does it open for prosumers and for energy communities. And on Saturday, we will be visiting a power plant, which has been installed by one of our members, where we will be learning directly how the procedure for this whole, let's say, endeavor has been, let's say, what are the steps and how anyone can do it. And we have about 30 participants in the course this year. And maybe just for the end to say, because there was a quite of, let's say, somehow negative incentive about cooperatives, word naming of cooperatives. And I would like to say that in my perspective, because Mark and me, we have been active in the cooperative movement for about 8 years now, in various cooperatives, also in Croatia and in ethical finance cooperative, that across our countries, actually there is a growing interest in cooperatives. And I think that the mood is really changing. And I would not keep to these old definitions and being scared of using the word cooperative. So I think that we should really reclaim it and play with it as it should be, and not leave it to the old history and let's say detours that were taken a while ago.
Thanks a lot, Anna and Mark. Thank you for boosting a bit of energy in the last bit of the session. And indeed, if we judge from the fact that so many people from so many different countries gather today, indeed the mood is changing. And indeed, let's stay with this tone. And I keep from your intervention that, okay, you encourage people to be their own guinea pigs, try it, show people that it can happen. I mean, you can make the change and then showcase it to the people and show where the problems are after you have started doing practically something. Thanks a lot. And thank you all actually for all the really interesting and diverse interventions. We have 2 questions in the Q&A that are semi-answered or semi-addressed. I don't know if we would like to get back to them. One of them, for instance, is focusing on the latest law proposal by the Greek Secretary of Energy. From Yanis Merlis, this is a question. Latest law proposal by the Greek Secretary of Energy seems to impose hurdles for further development of renewable energy communities and civil energy communities. What is the best practice to follow to counteract these legal hurdles? Dimitris started an attempt to address this question. I don't know if he would like to follow up briefly.
Yes, I think Yanis is referring to a very recent law that is about to pass and is connected to the transposition of the efficiency directive to the Greek legislation. I think this is what he refers to. Yeah, well, generally speaking, laws for energy communities are not favorable. The good thing is that we have a law. This is a very, very good thing. If we didn't have a law, then things would be very, very hard and impossible to have collective actions. So a point to start is that we have a law now since 2018, and we are all here to defend the law and to improve it. This is what we do, and this is what INZEB are doing as well, and this is this is what Heinrich Bell is, of course, also doing, and this is what we need to do more to design and to implement more advocacy actions. Otherwise, yeah, it's totally in our hands.
Thank you, Dimitri. The question of Jose Cordova is answered in the Q&A from Serjan. So if you're interested, you can have a look at the answer there, because I would like to take the little bit of time we have until we conclude for the question that Maida brought on the table, which is a rather provocative one, I must say, but very interesting at the same time, on the potential negative impact of energy communities or community energy projects. I don't know who would be the brave one to start with a response to this question. Because I mean, we've shared a lot on the positive aspects. Are there negative aspects? And which are the ones? Well, from the hesitation, I must say we must stay positive. I mean, it's very hard to find something which is negative on the community energy projects. So we can keep looking all together. Maida, you want to follow up?
Yes, just to clarify that my question was more referring to some investors or companies stealing the community or energy as a term and showing it, you know, representing it as something really positive. That was it, not really showing up all the people, you know, owning their energy. So just to clarify, if there are such.
More or less what Dimitris mentioned about Greece and the hijacking of the sector there to this logic, to this direction. Okay. Then we're clear on that. We're a bit over time, but although everybody really respected the time and we had many interesting points, I don't know if any of you would have any question for each other or any points that you would like to clarify in this last bit. If not, then I would go for a small wrap up and conclusion from the organizers, from Dimitris and Alice. Yeah. I don't see any points. I don't want to take more time. I know, for example, it was mentioned already, there is a course in Serbia starting in less than 20 minutes. So I also want to give you guys a break. So with that note, I would like to thank you all very, very much. It was a pleasure to moderate such a really interesting and diverse group. I hope this is just the beginning for all of you, for all of us. First meeting is already set for next summer here in Thessaloniki. But other steps, conclusions, lessons learned, milestones for the future, I leave it up to Alice and Dimitris for the end. Thank you all very much from my side.
And Kyriaki, of course.
And Kyriaki. Thank you all from my side. Warm thanks.
So Dimitri, Kyriaki, who wants to start?
Yeah, well, I could start taking on the question that Adonia placed already in the chat box about when do we meet next. As we said in the very beginning, this is supposed to be the first step. And we would like to meet again, of course, and of course to invite you in Thessaloniki, most probably, where the summer school will take place. So yeah, we need what we are missing today is Bulgaria. I think there were representatives from all Balkan countries, and this was very interesting. We are missing Bulgaria. So if any one of you has some contacts in Bulgaria or some organization that is working already on the development of community energy Bulgaria, it would be interesting to join this informal yet dynamic network that we are already building here. So thank you very much from our side. We will be in touch, of course, and we will meet again very, very soon. Thank you.
So thank you from my side as well. I really enjoyed the discussion and the presentations actually, and the national contexts, so many similarities, many difficulties, but also a lot of power in the organizations that they want to change the framework and they want to move forward, giving the power to the citizens' hands. What I can see from today's session is that there is a great opportunity for collaboration between all those organizations represented today, but also from other organizations that probably exist in the Balkan countries. So let's say that the first milestone for having a constructive dialogue under the energy democracy dialogues have been accomplished. Probably we can set, let's say, something like a mail around us and share some ideas of how we can proceed, because this platform is open. Of course, the video will be available to all. You can share it to your networks. Our plan is also to develop an infographic highlighting the main topics and the main ideas that have been represented. And of course, you are all welcome to contribute to this infographic if you want to highlight something very specific of what is happening in your countries. So thank you again. I hope to meet soon and sooner than the summer of 2022 in Thessaloniki, probably in another online version. That is from my side. Have a rest, have a nice evening. I know that we have similar hours, so yes. The floor now to Kyriaki.
Yeah, thank you everybody, and I will be really quick because I know that workshops are taking place and everyone is a bit tired, although a lot of inspiration and positive energy was in this discussion, despite the common challenges and the problems and the barriers that we have identified together. I really look forward to our next meeting and to deepening our collaboration and to see any synergies and any ways that we can also support you, our office in Thessaloniki, because we will be working more closely in the region, and our focus in the next year will be primarily in Bulgaria, but that's not a barrier for us. And most of you have, or some of you have benefited from our network of offices in Sarajevo and Belgrade. So reach out in case you need any support or any contacting or bringing you in contact with other people or experts. And again, thank you very much for being here with us.
And of course, to thank Michalis for the great moderation and for keeping a nice flow of this discussion. Thank you, Michali, for your time and for your willingness to be part of this nice initiative.
My pleasure. Have a nice evening.
Have a nice evening to all. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.